Go, Phillies, go! Go, Phillies, go! World Series champs 2022, baby!
We're going at it at 110%.
I just want 5 minutes of happiness, please. Just give me 5 minutes.
And they scored! They did it!
Left, feet left.
What the hell was that?
Oh, yeah! What the fuck are you talking about?
What is up, everybody? A2D fam. I'm Zach. That's Daniel. We're live. Weekly roundup. Oh, baby. And how about the weekly SmackDown? Or I don't know what type of analogy we can go with. We might get sued. The WWE might be listening. But 7-0. Phillies there in the 6th. We're trying to make it even more with Segura off the plate. There was just a wild pitch. This is unreal with the bang is popping. Jeez, that was a productive at-bat, G. Yeah. But, man, Harper got it rocking and rolling early. What a rock star. Remember those old commercials that they had out when we were kids? I live for this. Yeah. You remember those I live for this commercials? Like, Bryce Harper is the definition of somebody. He should be in one. If they had those commercials, he'd be the face of it now. I live for this because he just lives for these moments. It's been all postseason long. Just like sat all over the first pitch breaking ball from McCullers, right? Sat all over it, crushed it. The minute he hit it, you know it was gone. And I think this game was over the minute he hit that ball because it's just been popping ever since, and it's been foot to the throat, choking the life, out of Houston. Seems like slowly, inning by inning, just it's like a predator, fucking with its prey, right? Like you can kill it if you wanted to right away, but you just gotta have fun with it, like a cat, with the mouse. It's part of the game.
Yeah, and just like Bryce Harper's killing it, we got another Bryce killing it in the chat right here. We're on a mission, 7-0. Birds and Phillies on Thursday.
We're bringing in Gibson. We're gonna have a Kyle Gibson sighting, Daniel. These are the types of games. See, Gibson needs to go get me 4 innings here. Gee, go pitch the final 4 innings here. Final 3 innings. Whoa. 7th, 8th, 9th. All I need is for you to give me the final 3 of a 7-0 game. No, man. Hold on. Y'all should see. I got pictures on my Facebook. I was Captain Jack Sparrow for Halloween last night. Look, you can even maybe see some of the eyeshadow.
No, geez.
No, I think I got it all. But I struggle. I don't know how the ladies do it, man. I struggled for like an hour this morning trying to get that eyeshadow off. At one point, I looked like the Undertaker if he was on meth or something. It was crazy. Like. For those that don't know, if you smoke a lot of meth, you lose a lot of weight, and your face gets really skinny. So hence the black eyeshadow and the long hair and the Undertaker reference. Fuck off. You know what?
But before we get going with any more of the live reaction, of course, we got agree or disagree. Game 3 is a must-win for the Phillies tonight. But before we get going with that, of course, how about you tell them about buying a home through Alan Foy?
Just, if you're looking to buy or sell a home, looking for a change of career or brokerage, you contact Alan Foy of eXp Realty LLC, 302-682-8820, or visit him at alan.foy@exprealty.com. Nobody knows better than Tom. Tom just bought a new house and went through the process, and he went through the man himself, Alan Foy, because just like us here at HUD Radio, he's the best in the business, and we do business with other people that are also the best in the business. He's the guy that's going to steer you in the right direction every time. So his Vikings looking good too all of a sudden, and they just made a big trade today, didn't they? Who'd the Vikings acquire? The T.J. Hawkinson, right?
The top 10 tight end from Detroit.
Which is one of their weaknesses. Like, you couldn't even name the Vikings tight end. Like I don't like.
Well, they had Irv Smith, but he went down. He's going to be out 8 to 10 weeks.
Look at you! You could actually name him. Oh my God! He was like the weakest part of their offense.
But it left a hole in that lineup with him out for 2-3 months. So
you play too much fantasy football. That's how you know who the Vikings tight end is.
No, I just know that.
You didn't know that.
No, I did because he not only that, but he's the guy
in the truck that that's why he's got the earphones. He's got somebody some stat guy that's relaying him information to his headset.
Yeah. We had Chris Moore, of course. I will agree to the poll of the streamers earlier, but I am now leaning towards disagree. I think Game 4 will be a must-win with Thor on the mound. It's actually
Thor's not pitching Game 4 anymore.
They changed it up. It's now going to be Aaron Nola at home, and then they moved Thor to Game 5.
But that might make me agree with your comment even more, Chris. If you win tonight and you have Nola going tomorrow is must win. That's your chance to put your foot on their throat, put them down 3-1. And I mean, this series is as close to over as it's going to be without it actually being over. I mean, being down 3-1 is just, it's huge. Because you got the ability to go close them out at home in Game 5, but if not, you're going to have Wheeler going in Game 6 when you go back to Houston. But the whole idea of moving Nola, to be the starter for Game 4 is the idea that now that you're up 2-1 with your ace on the mound, you can go put them in a really bad spot and be in the driver's seat in a big time way with a 3-1 series lead. So, I mean, I might be with you. Statistically, it says, the math says that Game 3 is the must-win game of the World Series. Whoever wins Game 3, when series are tied at 1-1, whoever wins Game 3 goes on to win the series 65% of the time.
It gives you a lot more wiggle room, especially for the team that is home for the next 3 games. If they can get that, they go up 2-1 and get the next 2 games.
But I bet you if you look at the math, after 1-1 and then going up 2-1, I bet you if you look at the math, if the series gets tied at 2-2, I bet you that math drops down a lot closer to being more in favor now of the team that's just tied it at 2. So, I mean, if you look at the math, I know we're a bunch of nerds. You just keep looking at the math. That was a big thing coming into Game 3. How Game 3 is, in the 65% number, right? But I'm almost with Chris at this point. Tomorrow becomes if you go into tomorrow and you lose with Nola on the mound, I mean, it's going to feel like a big gut punch, isn't it? You're really going to feel like it's a giant letdown. All the air has been let out of the balloon in a way. So I'm kind of with Chris's comment. I feel with Nola on the mound tomorrow. Yeah, tomorrow does become that must-win game for you.
We got Tom chiming in. Let's go. What's going on, Tom? We got the 7-0.
Look, yeah, Tom, 7-0. I mean, this is about as stress-free as it could get in a World Series game. And so far, I mean, you're this never happens. It's about as stress-free as it could be.
It's top of 7th. We got 1 out. Gibson's pitching. Our hope is that he goes the next 3 innings to give the rest of our
just let Gibson get some confidence and go. That was a nasty curveball there. Look at this film.
And just like I said, how lucky did we get that we had another Game 3 postponement? Literally every World Series
really did help a lot of things.
At home, there's been a postponement in Game 3. It allowed us to reshuffle the bullpen. It does nothing to the Astros because they were going to go with who they were going to go with in that spot no matter what. But it allowed us
the Astros have such a deep bullpen.
Yeah.
They're not really worried about those things. For us, and it's we're the dog here, right? We're the ones that's kind of fighting, the uphill battle. We've got to make sure we put ourselves in the best spot that we possibly can at all times. We can't find ourselves, in a tough spot where the Astros probably don't necessarily feel as worried about being in that tough spot. They know how good they are. They've been here 3 of the last 5 years, and they're battle tested. So I love how we've got everything set up going forward now.
And then Game 1 and 2, they got ahead early to 5-run lead, 3-run lead, and that's something that we couldn't afford to coming home in our ballpark. This is where we play a lot better at. but we did get that one game on the road that we needed and come back.
And we talked about that as much as a disappointment as game 2 was. We talked about needing to get one on the road, right? Like 2 is greedy. If you just steal one, you come back home in a good spot, and now here you are.
It almost could have been come back 0-2 if it wasn't for our team not
showing up in game 1.
We still fought, got in the pitches, got Verlander into deep counts, and at some point we were just able. It just clicked. We were able to get him the third time around the lineup. Then Verlander didn't look the same. He wasn't throwing with the same confidence, and we were able to break him, get him out early. And so surprisingly, the bullpen was scoreless the rest of the way from there on. It was something where we wouldn't have thought this would have happened at the beginning of the season, but here we are in the World Series. We had 5. It was Aaron Nola gave up 5 runs, and then the rest of the way scoreless. And we had a hit in the bottom of the 9th where we thought that they were going to score, and Castellanos catches that ball just like he did a round ago or 2 rounds ago, and we get out of the inning, and then Realmuto scores to put us ahead. It's just been like that all season ever since Rob Thompson took over, where it's been like, damn, we've had the lucky bounce already each game.
Yeah, I mean, we've almost put ourselves in. Like you came into the series and wanted to talk about the position you want to be in going into game 4. I mean, it's just played out almost as perfect as it could. And I think tonight, with the way everything's happened, the way this game is going, you've really completely shifted the momentum of this series. It feels like, you got 2 more games in Philly, and right now it feels like a house of horrors for Houston. You know what I mean? It just seems like a place that is just a madhouse, and it can overwhelm you in a hurry when things aren't going well. And this game got out of hand quickly in our favor, and it really does feel like the type of thing that can really completely shift everything in the series. After winning game 1 the way we did, we felt like we had it. Then we kind of let them feel like they've kind of climb back and have no, we're fine. We got it. It's 1-1. We're the better team. It's like we got them where we want them. We're okay here. It's fine. And then they come out and get shellacked in game 3. Houston does, and that's got to be a little bit of a gut punch, right? Like they're gonna, they're gonna show up at the ballpark tomorrow and be like, man, geez, this is life or death all of a sudden. And then not only that, you've got to go against the other team's number 1, who didn't necessarily pitch all that well in game 1 and is coming off back-to-back poor starts, is kind of due to really go out there and have a shutdown performance. I mean, I expect like a 2-1 game or something tomorrow. You know what I mean? It just has the feel of all of a sudden it's going to be a low-scoring type of contest.
And just like Manster said, helps with our rest of the bullpen too. We get to throw. Right now, we got Gibson in, who hasn't played that much. He's kind of been healthy and fresh. We put him in there, allows the main pieces to not pitch tonight, let him go tomorrow. Hopefully we can get Aaron Nola to go 6 or 7 strong tomorrow and use it even less, because I feel like game 5 is going to be the game where it's going to be all guys on deck with the bullpen, with Thor going. More than likely, they'll ask for him to go 3, 4 if he can. 5 would be stretching it a little bit because he only went 3 in the last series, and go from there. And hopefully that'll be the clincher there on Thursday if we can win tomorrow. Assuming that we win tonight, since we're up 7-0. We just had Gibson go 1, 2, 3 inning, 14 pitches to end now we're in the bottom of the 7th with the Phillies up. Everything's looking good. I'm hoping he goes 2 extra. But I like what Jonathan said up here. He said the Phillies may sweep in Philly and end up 8-0 at home. Eagles beat Texans to be 8-0 on Thursday. A dream come true. That could happen on Thursday. It could. I hope it does. I'm still going game by game.
We're going to have both of those games going on at 8:00 too, right?
They had to move the
that was supposed to be the off day. That was going to sync everything up so beautifully.
Yeah. But they had to move the Eagles game. The Eagles game was going to be on Fox, but now it's going to be on WPHL. And so the Phillies game will be on Fox.
I wonder where it'll be on down here. I probably won't be able to watch it. No, there's no way they won't let that game on national TV, right?
No, it's just in the regional, so it's going to be on Amazon.
So sometimes down here in Florida, when the games are on Amazon, they're also broadcasted on. Well, maybe that was just this past Thursday because it was the Bucks. Okay, so maybe that's what it was. Yeah, that sucks. I don't have Amazon. I won't be able to fucking watch it.
I think Houston is feeling like we are in real trouble. Well, they have to be. They came into this undefeated.
What is Derek Jeter doing here? Who let Derek Jeter in the building? Oh, look, Fletcher Cox is there. Look at this white girl Fletcher Cox is smashing.
Yeah.
Like, yo, what the hell?
Okay.
Oh, there we go. Like Justin Verlander's wife. Kate Upton trying to stay relevant. When was the last time she did anything relevant?
There's Rod McElhenney from It's Always Sunny.
Who the fuck is that guy? Is he from Is he the guy from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia?
Yeah, and then he owns Wrexham with the Ryan Reynolds.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
I do like the show It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Yeah, it's a really funny show. And then there's Kate Upton. Why is she there if Justin Verlander?
Yes, I know, Mr. Wing, but I'm in Florida, so trust me, the Eagles game is not on Channel 17.
Yeah,
Channel
it's only going to be on.
What the hell is that down here for me? Oh, that's Ion. You know Ion Television? They play like Chicago Fire and Blue Bloods and shit like that all day. You can watch Criminal Minds and shit. Yeah, that's Ion Television. That's Channel 17.
I was just about to say Criminal Minds is like a mainstay on Ion.
Oh, it's fucking phenomenal. You can't get enough of it. You just get stoned and watch that shit all fucking day. Well, maybe you don't, but.
Now, how have you felt so far this series, like in the 3 games so far, with what we've seen sample size? Because of course
our offense can obviously compete with anybody. I mean, and that ball, the ball in game 2, this is why I fucking hate instant replay in baseball and really in sports in general. Like, shit's so fucking stupid sometimes. Oh, well, the ball was foul. Okay, well, you called it fair. Okay, I don't know how we have a dude down the right field line that's like fucking 35 feet away from it, 40 feet away or whatever, and he called it foul or he called it fair too, whatever. But I hate this idea of instant replay. It slows the game down. It kills the momentum. Like at a time when the World Series, this is a big time. You want to feed off the momentum of the game and you're killing that shit by slowing everything down to go take a look at something stupid. You got 8 umpires on the field. If you can't get right on the field, oh fucking well. That is what it is, but human error, you can't try to perfect, you can't take human error out of sports in general. Like everything in sports in general, no matter what sport we're talking about, not even in pro sports, but like sports at every level. How many I umpire these these travel baseball tournaments every weekend. It's the teams that are catching the routine pop-ups and fielding the routine ground balls and making the routine plays and making the least amount of mistakes that are usually winning these tournaments, right? So human error, right? Players are going to make mistakes. The coaches are going to make mistakes. And somewhere along the line in there, officials are going to make mistakes too. But out of the 3 of those people making mistakes, the only one that we seem to want to be focused on correcting is the officials. Oh, well, the umpires weren't perfect today. Well, neither was anybody else. But we don't have this weird obsession about trying to fix the imperfect. In the player or the coaching side of this, we only have this weird obsession with trying to make the officiating side of it perfect. Well, when there's humans involved in shit, there's always going to be human error, and it's impossible to take it out of it. And people will see how much of a disaster that is next year when they install this stupid robot strike zone. This automated strike zone thing they want to do, and you got pitches bouncing in the dirt and shit, and they're calling them strikes because. That's what the automated zone says. It's got blind spots up and down. It doesn't know how to adjust for guys that are 6'6" compared to guys that are 5'10". It's got no clue.
That mixed in with the fact that they're only going to have was it to start out with, I think 20 pitches, 20 seconds in between pitches. If you got runners in scoring position.
I'm okay with the pitch clock one because I feel like, I mean,
I'm just saying with both of them together. Like I like the pitch count or like timer. I like that because it speeds the game up. Don't got guys taking 2 minutes to go in between pitches. But that mixed in with the robot strike zone, who knows how that's going to be with how they call things, just like you said. It's going to be
But
crazy.
Imagine this. They put the pitch clock in because they don't like pitchers taking all this extra time and just, let's speed up the game. Yet then we're going to take 5 minutes to look at something that I can tell you from my couch. He's out. He's out by a half step, maybe a little bit less than a half step, but he's out. Why are we looking at this? It's not even that close of a play. Why is this being reviewed? Who thought this was that close to review it? Like, it's really not. Like, any umpire will tell you this really isn't that close of a play. Now, anybody who's been around baseball long enough can tell you it's really not that close of a play. But here we are wasting 5 minutes on it, and you're worried about a pitch clock.
How much you want to make a bet that the in between innings is going to be longer now? They're going to find a way to make that longer, so it's like, okay, the
it's
game
already long enough.
go
But this stupid fucking process. Another one that I called and I said how stupid it was from the beginning was going to lead to a disastrous outcome was them fucking doing this weird in-between inning check of all these pitchers. Yeah. And what happened? Dan Bellino feeling up Madison Bumgarner's hand, right? And that whole weird fucking thing that happened earlier this year where he was like fingering Madison Bumgarner's palm and shit. And Bumgarner wanted to fight him, and then Bellino threw him out. And you're like, because it's the ump show out here half the time at the big league level. Guys feel like they're big time, and when you give them opportunities to be in the spotlight, like, let me be on national TV as I do some sort of weird inspection for Madison Bumgarner because he might have a substance on him somewhere. Grow up. Who cares? Stop. Well, he might have been cheating. What are we, a bunch of fucking 7-year-olds? Like, just some of this shit is just silly to me. And it just keeps going in a worse and worse direction. The people that bitched about Martin Maldonado and the bat in game 1, they didn't even fucking bother to look at why. He was using an illegal bat. Yeah, and it's such a physical advantage that they allow anybody that was using that model of bat before 2010 to be grandfathered in to still use it. So it's not like you can hit the ball further or harder or you're getting some sort of physical advantage from it. If that was the case, Albert Pujols wouldn't have been allowed to use it. People from before 2010 wouldn't have been grandfathered in. If you look at the thing, and they talked about it, the reason they changed it and it's no longer an acceptable model was a player safety thing. It's a two-piece bat, and they're worried about it breaking in a certain part down near the handle. And as a two-piece bat, if it breaks down in that area, it becomes like a flying object, right? It's flying out at people, at a very high rate of speed, and they were just worried from a player safety perspective that something bad might happen. So they changed the rule about that model of bat not being allowed. Yeah, here we've got a bunch of idiots, and this fan base especially, over here bitching after game 1 about, he was using an illegal bat. The dude hit like a $192 in the regular season and had a seeing eye single on like a hit and run, when he hit a ball, to the right side, with a shift on, and then they had a hit and run going, so there's nobody there. Like, whoop-de-doo, he got lucky. Like, what I mean? Like, me and you could have, like, hit a ball. Like, you give us 100 swings, we might find a way to hit a ball through the right side, in that situation, just once. Like, I think it's such a silly thing. We get worked up about this shit, and then these things get focused and get talked about in the national media, and it's just so bad for the game. And I can't fucking stand it as somebody that loves baseball, because I just none of this is good for the game of baseball. This is the focus of your World Series. A stupid fucking bat that was, a model that was changed because of a slight concern of a player safety issue, a model that a handful of players still use because they're grandfathered in. And this is what we're talking about. After game 1, after a game that everything happened in game 1, being down 5-0, coming back to win 7-6, and everything happened, we're talking about a stupid fucking bat.
And then we got game 2 with the Fremmer, of course, with the people talking about him using illegal substances because how he was touching the hat and then the glove and all when he was saying that it's a routine for him. It's like I just look at it as the fact that he was a left-handed pitcher and
just like Joe Musgrove had stuff on his ears, in the Mets series, just grow up. Like this again, all this shit.
We got Ray Lester coming in. How's it going, guys? Enjoying the game? I think everybody in the Philadelphia area is enjoying the game. It's 7-0.
Valdez has had like Framber Valdez had like what he's got like 30 straight quality starts or something. Like that means going at least 6 innings pitched with 200 left.
Yeah, it's just that
he had
he's
30
a left-handed
straight,
hitter.
right?
Yeah, it's just he was a left-handed pitcher pitching at home against a team that has a lot of right-handed hitters in our lineup. That's why we took out Marsh, because he doesn't hit lefties very well. And we made some adjustments to it, and it just didn't work.
That guy's making Brandon Marsh. How about somebody that's turning himself into a Philly folk hero pretty quickly, huh? Yeah. Comes over at the deadline. He's got the hair and the beard, which people obviously are going to love and immediately fall. I love it, right? It's the guy. I love it. Like that's one of my guys, right? That's one of my guys, right? But quickly turning himself into a Philly folk hero. A couple big home runs in the series, and he's 24. He's under team control for a few more years. We talked about that trade at the deadline and just like how much of like a low risk, high reward trade that becomes. And then we saw what's his name? We saw Mickey Moniak, the Mick. We saw the Mick trying to hang out and fucking this is what leeches do. Right? He's the fucking leech. The kid didn't do absolutely dog shit here, right? But he's gonna try to hang around and try to act buddy with everybody so he can get a ring. What a roach! That kid's a loser. What a fucking loser.
Wasn't he at game 1 against San Diego?
Yeah, he was exactly. What a loser.
Oh, my God. Him and a couple other former
Go back to Arizona to the Angels spring training complex and actually work on your awful fucking swing that's led to you not hitting you hit like a $197 or something in your big league career. That's cute. Why don't we go back to Arizona to the spring training complex for the Angels and let's work on that. And instead, you're over here game 1. Wearing a Phillies jersey. Who the fuck let this guy in the building with a Phillies jersey? Waving at people and smiling and shit? No, you didn't do nothing. You got nobody's respect here. You're a loser.
That's what Mike Trout
We're going to give this loser a ring. Get out of here.
That's what Mike Trout gets to deal with on a daily basis in Anaheim since that front office doesn't want to build a good team there.
Oh.
He said,
did Mike Trout get you the tickets? Like, what happened with that?
Marsh is the youngest player in history to hit one in the series. I assume he means home run. That's a good fact. I didn't know that. I didn't know he was that young.
Bryson, get the ball up a little bit, please, because we all saw Reese can't catch a low throw.
Game 3 winner, 68 for 90. No, 68 for 89 in games when a team wins game 3.
So that's like 66%.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting they put Nick Nelson in. Of course, we were hoping that Gibson would do all 3 innings. So he does. He does 2 no, he did 1. I think he only did 1 inning.
Yeah, they'll probably try to get Eflin in the game, I would think.
So my guess is they're saving Gibson for game 5. So they're like, oh, let's put him in here. Get him working. He went 1, 2, 3 it in. Only threw 14 pitches, so he should be good for game 5 now. If he needs to come in after no Syndergaard, which is a good move. We could have used him for all 3 here, but what better usage to just get him in, get him working, and then game 5 you put him in, and he can do more of like a long relief role there. If
that's true. Because Falter's not on the roster, so I mean that lefty, and Suarez obviously pitched tonight, so I mean if Thor goes 3 or 4 innings, who comes in at that point? Yeah, I mean you want to feel at least that maybe you at least want to see where Gibson's stuff is at, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You at least want to see where his stuff is at and what his stuff looks like right now. And his stuff looked pretty good tonight. I mean the breaking ball was really good. So I don't know.
I like that idea, though, because he only threw 15 pitches. He looked good. I'm hoping you can get four innings down Syndergaard. I know it's probably going to be like a word of feel.
You get 4 out of Syndergaard and then maybe Gibson gives you 2?
Maybe 3. It depends. But I bet Thompson's going to be like the feel factor there. He's going to see how well Noah's doing. And if he does good, gives up no runs, and he keeps on doing good, through the second field through the lineup, he might keep him in there. If he struggles a little bit, maybe he pulls him out and then puts Gibson in to hopefully get 2 or 3 runs. And then the hope there is that you get a lead by the 5th or 6th inning, so then you can go to the heart of your bullpen at that time.
This would be a good spot in the 9th inning to throw Brad Hand in a low leverage situation and just really try to let him go out there with a little confidence.
I will say he looked good in Game 2, Brad Hand. Which was good. Even though we weren't winning, it was good to get him out there, like you said, get him a little bit of confidence. Maybe you get him to do this 9th inning too, and get more confidence on top of that, because then you got a guy who it was definitely down and out, and you get 2 good like performances there, and then he looks good for a future appearance in games 4 and 5. We got Ray.
Right now, I put him in the game. Any low leverage situation, sure. But yeah, I'm not bringing him in any sort of close game.
But I think the key tomorrow, of course, the big key tomorrow is Noah, how well he pitches. That's the big key there. Because you're up 2-1, you want to make it 3-1. You want to definitely put even more pressure on them to have to perform. And then with 3-1, you got a lot of wiggle room. Of course, you want to win at home, but tomorrow, the Game 3 tonight was very important, which I agreed to earlier. But now Game 4 is going to be important. It seems like. Just move on one game each time. Make each game even more important than the last, and that's how they keep working.
I'll tell you what,
it seems like
the Astros they just got the curse of Dusty Baker more than anything else. I mean, this like Dusty Baker. People are like, oh, he's the oldest man to ever manage in a World Series. Like, oh yeah. People are like, will he finally get a ring? And I keep telling people, it's like, no, like this dude's like the Marty Schottenheimer of baseball or something. Like the 0-2 World Series, right? They almost have it won, and and they choke it away. That was the last time a team had a 5-run lead and then blew it in a World Series game until Game 1, right? And then the Phillies do it and come back on the Astros. And what a weird, awkward stat that's got to be when you're sitting there if you're Dusty Baker and you're like, the last time a team in a World Series game blew a 5-run lead, it was the 2002 Giants, who were also managed by Dusty Baker. And you're like, I don't know what it is with Dusty Baker and this idea of – and then the other stat I loved, it said that's only happened 5 times in, like, World Series history where teams had a 5-run lead in the game and they blew it and lost, and Dusty Baker's been the manager for 2 of those games. So could you imagine? Like, holy shit. Like, I don't know, like this guy, I don't know what he's done to like end up, on the bad side of the baseball gods. But yeah, 0-2, and then a couple years ago he had another chance, didn't get it. But think about, when the Astros went and they lost last year or whatever it was, to the Braves. But he had the good team with the Cubs, right? Yeah, after the debacle with the Giants and they blow that World Series, ends up with the Cubs in 0-3. Looks like they might go finally break the curse, right? And go to the World Series. And then the Steve Bartman game happens, right? So Dusty's got this weird, like, black cloud of, like, baseball misfortune that follows him around. How did, like, Steve Bartman, right? Like, the fucking play with Moises Alou in left field. Then they find a way to blow that series. He had some good Cubs teams, but they never went anywhere. He had some good Cincinnati Reds teams. We beat his Cincinnati Reds. We beat his Cincinnati Reds with Roy Halladay's. That was the Roy Halladay no-hitter series. Yeah. That was his Reds team. We beat them. He had some good Nationals teams. They don't do nothing. This is like his 5th try. With a team that's like, and everywhere he goes, he ends up having good teams. But this has been the MO. They don't win shit, and he's been managing since like 1992. So at this point,
and then after he left the Nationals, they go and win a World Series. like a couple of years later. So it's like
at this point, I don't know. I'm just saying, there's this weird thing. He's,
but you got that.
The baseball guys keep telling him, no, like this, it's not going to happen. Just like, no, keep trying. It's not going to happen.
And then on top of that, you got Justin Verlander. Who would have thought like him being one of the best pitchers in baseball? 0-6 in the World Series.
Yeah,
like,
he's another one, right? With that whole little like that curse that follows him around. Well, right, exactly, right. It's not that he doesn't have a ring; he's fine. He's got the ring because he won with the Dodgers. But just as a manager, we're talking about here. We're talking about as a manager. Yeah, people want to talk about this thing. With him getting, he got another chance to get a ring. Like, yeah, the curse of Dusty is real. I'm with you. It absolutely is.
Yeah, it definitely is.
You know what it is? I'll track it back to this. He got hired by the Giants to be the manager in '92, and then in '93 they went out in free agency and kind of sold their soul to the baseball gods and signed Barry Bonds, right? And kind of brought in and Barry. I love Barry as a player. Barry Bonds, we had Rafael Palmeiro on, and he said the same thing. Barry Bonds is the greatest hitter that the game's ever seen, and I completely agree. 1,000%. Barry Bonds is the greatest hitter of all time. He's also probably. Like when you want to make like a list of top 5 biggest assholes in the history of pro sports, Barry Bonds is on that list. So, and you signed there was things like, apparently him having his own locker room and shit like that there, like the dude was a total dickhead, right? And, that you live with it because he's the greatest hitter on the planet. But Dusty Baker, signs up for that mess, right? And puts himself as the face of all of it. And I guess this is what happened. The baseball gods are like, boom. Bad juju for his entire managing career. And Rob Thompson's kind of the opposite, isn't he? Rob Thompson's the career baseball guy that has gotten his chance. And so I saw the weird stat the other day that said Rob Thompson could win a World Series ring as a manager before he ever manages an opening day. That's a weird fucking statistic.
Well, yeah, because since he took over halfway through, and then on top of that,
who thought that was possible?
They made the funny comment that, of course, how funny is it that you got a Canadian coaching a American sports team, and then you got on the Flyers, you got an American coaching a Canadian sports team. You got it flipped. It's like you wouldn't have thought that to happen, but he's made it work. It's just like you said, he's been a career guy, and this is his probably his. I think he's been in the league for over 15 years because he's been in the league since 2008. Yeah, he came up with Torrey, and then it went to Girardi, and then of course came over here. And just like he said, what is Girardi thinking now? Well, apparently Girardi is.
If that's fair, it's gone and it's just foul. Bregman, wow.
But it's like Girardi just didn't have the knack with this team. It's like you can be good for one team and manage it, and then the next team you might not be as good. It's just you got to have a feel for each team that you're managing. And he just didn't have it for whatever reason. He didn't know how to put the pieces together, and he didn't know how to solve the puzzle. And it seems like Rob Thompson is doing a great job at doing so. They said it right. It's like you got Rob Thompson, who's cool as a cucumber. You never see emotion out of him. And for him, one of his best pitchers right now is Ranger Suarez, who on the mound is the same way. He has no pulse. And I was a guy that was not for him to be in the starting rotation, and now I'm eating my rewards with how good he's done for the Phillies this postseason. And it sucks that he's not going to get that Gold Glove at pitcher position because he missed it by 3 innings. 3 innings, which sucks. But it's like,
oh no, we're not going to get a Gold Glove out.
Yeah, which sucks. But he's showcasing it out there. He's been one of the important pieces of the rotation, and he allows them to not have to overuse Wheeler and Nola.
Here's a better idea instead of the Gold Glove, Daniel. See if you like this idea. It's the golden turd, and you give it to the person who's the worst fielder at their position every single year, And you just present it to them like, here's your golden turd. And they have to sit there and hold it like this in their hands, like it's a trophy, as you snap a picture with them and we all celebrate it. And I think Rhys Hoskins would win at first base. That might definitely be a thing.
Talk about that how like apparently his wife has been buying fans like
that's
beer.
Pretty badass though. Yeah, like that's badass.
Apparently she just did it again tonight too.
Yeah, bought a bunch of Yinglings too. Like she's got it. She knows. She understands. You got to buy the Philly beer. That was the one I saw those memes going around about Rob Thompson, where it was like Rob Thompson drinks Take a Boost and his wife carries around a pocketbook. Like there was some Philly shit, man. Yeah, I was there. That was awesome.
She's the real MVP here. She's trying to buy our happiness and help us forget about the bad moments of Hoskins. But then he goes and hits a home run anyway tonight to like. That's the best thing that you can do. That's the best thing you can do is just hit a home run.
All of the big boys. Look at the big boys, right? Harper, Hoskins, Schwarber, all three of them go deep.
Then you got Bohm and Marsh in it as well, which is good. Bohm hasn't hit one in a while.
Oh, it's going to stay in the park. Okay. Well, thank you. Tucker got it off the end of the bat a little bit.
See, that's a guy that I'm glad. I'm hoping he's eating his words because he's a guy that said, we're going to get him out in 4 games. And
was that a real quote?
No.
So many of these quotes get created and put it on the internet. Was that a real quote?
It was like I watched the interview.
Yeah.
And I actually watched the interview.
He seems like a meathead. Let's be honest. He seems like a dude that was like, I've always been big and strong and athletic and really good looking, and the girls have always really loved me because of it. So, he's that guy. So I'm not surprised he said something stupid, but he just gives me that impression.
We just went through the 8th inning now. That was the 3rd out. Now in the bottom of the 8th, still 7-0. We just got 3 more outs left until game 3 is over with the hope for 2-1 series lead for all Fighting Phillies.
Big time performance tonight, baby.
Yeah, man. I'm
this
happy,
team,
man.
This team is, you could just tell, right? Like there's that energy there. Like sometimes you could just look at a team and look at their cohesiveness and how they come together and be like, yeah, this team's just got it. Like they're going to go win the whole thing. And we look like that unit. You know what I'm saying? We just look like that group. You want to talk about leadership, and a guy that's kind of answered every single question that remained about him and his character and who he is as a baseball player coming into the postseason or the tail end of the season in Bryce Harper. And, people that were ripping him in a lot of different ways. I mean, after his home run, right? They've got him on camera there. You can hear on the microphone them calling Alex Bohm over for him to talk to Bohm. And you talked about it earlier when they went to interview Bohm, and he was like, it's between us. But that's a leadership thing there, right? You notice something, and then the young guys, it works both ways, right? The young guys have to be coachable and have to be willing to kind of gravitate towards these superstar veterans that have been there and done all that in this league, and have this trust that, hey, those guys aren't going to steer me wrong, and I'm going to listen to anything they tell me because they're going to make me a better player. That works both ways, right? And Bohm comes over and obviously listens, because then he goes and leads off the next inning, and whatever he was told to look for, the first pitch breaking ball or whatever, if there was something that McCullers was doing to tip his pitches a little bit or whatever, he listened and saw it and identified it, and puts a great swing on the ball. Right?
He started on the first pitch too, because he hit it right away.
Just like Harper, first pitch, right? So there was something there with the first pitch,
which is crazy. And
something
then
with the first pitch, and Harper identified it. And passes along the information, right? And I mean, it's little things like that. On top of him being the hottest hitter on the planet right now, he's also kind of, it's bigger. It's a bigger picture thing to him than that. He still wants to be that guy for all the young players to lean on to try to become the best players they can be. And that's all part of it too. But he got the whole party started tonight.
Yeah. And then he has that big stigma, of course. Like they were talking about pregame, he's 16. He's the biggest prospect coming out, and
yeah, he's been in the spotlight since he was 16. He's been in the spotlight since he was. That part of everybody listens. Yeah, he's been in the spotlight since he was a kid. He loves this. Yeah. This is his everything. Bring it on.
He feels like
he hasn't seen before.
And then, of course, he feels like he owes it to them to play up to that level, play up to that hype.
Yeah, and he's one of the few guys that goes inside like this. It means something to him. It lights a fire under him because he doesn't want to let people down.
And of course, the way he left the Nationals, of course, he left, and then they won a World Series. So
it doesn't help when they win the World Series next year, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't help.
But
that's also the circumstance. When you have Juan Soto coming through your system, there wasn't really any reason to keep him, was there? You didn't really feel like you were in a position where you had to give because you have Juan Soto coming through your system.
Yeah.
So that's just a business decision too.
Yeah. And then now
Bryce Harper by far has the better legacy. Are you kidding me? I mean, they both have multiple MVP awards, and yet Trout is obviously, without question, throughout their primes, Trout's been the more consistent, the better player. But there's something about again, there's more to it than that, especially at the professional level. Trout's the real quiet, guy that just goes about his business and just kind of chugs along, and he's the most he's the best player in baseball. But for a guy that's the best player in baseball, you sure as hell don't there's not this big. Everywhere Bryce Harper goes, the cameras follow. The attention comes with it, right? Mike Trout, for some reason, avoids all that. Maybe it helps playing with the Angels. But you want to talk about legacies. Well, winning is always a part of a legacy. And Mike Trout's legacy right now is going to be the fact that he was the best player on the planet, the best player in the game that played on a team that was so garbage they couldn't figure out how to put enough around him to ever be anything good enough to even come close to being competitive. And your legacy at that point becomes
kind of like A-Rod with the Texas Rangers, where they had him. He was playing great, and they just were.
Yeah. I mean, what is Mike Trout's legacy?
I think another thing to think about with him is the fact that you look at his play. Two big things. It's the fact that the front office isn't helping him with the team, so that he's on a team where they're not good. And then number two, I feel like injuries have kind of changed the way that he plays the game.
Yeah, now he's got a chronic back injury, right? And back injuries are one of those things that they just don't go away. They get worse and worse the older you get. So who knows what's going to happen there? I mean,
but between that,
he's by far.
But he's missed a lot of games over the past couple of years, not just his back, but for other things. I believe one was his knee, one was his hand, but it's like he's not the same player that he used to be. He's still great. He's still one of the top players. That's not going to change, but it's a different approach for him now. He's more than likely not going to be that leadoff hitter that will steal bases 20, 30 times a game and hit 30 and 100. He might be more like of a power hitter now, still bat for maybe 300, but he's not going to be the speed guy anymore. That's kind of going to be taken away from him because of his back, and then he might be limited to the games now. They might do a lot more rest for him because that's a big thing, a back injury. That's something that you got to really grow through like
a manage it.
5-month season.
You got to manage it. And it's something that's very, very easy to tweak, and all of a sudden it's like, it's killing me, and you have to miss a few days. Yeah, you've got to miss a week, because it happens with me all the time with the discs. I've got disc issues in my neck, herniated discs and bulging discs. It's one of those things that good play by Tucker in the corner. As you head into the shadows, that's not an easy play. But it's something that's very easy. You just move the wrong way too quickly. You make a quick move to your right. You do it with you've got little kids. You probably do it with little kids all the time. You out of the corner of your eye, you see them about to do something dangerous, jump off the side of the couch or something. And you do that quick reaction lunge. It's just like a parental instinct thing, right? Where you go to grab your kid to make sure that they don't fall and hurt themselves or something, and you go this way too quickly. Well, that motion alone can can hurt your back. Your kid, again, another thing kids do, right? They like come from the other side of the room, right, and get like a running start and jump on you, right? And another thing, just like shit like that can hurt your back, and like, wow, that makes those discs in my neck feel good. Fuck. It's like so.
And then you look at
who
Bryce.
knows what's going to happen with his career going forward?
And then you look at Bryce this year. His big thing was his hand, and he missed 2 months. But coming back, it was like, what are you going to do?
His have been freak injuries.
Yeah,
nothing about Bryce is a chronic thing.
But that's something you can easily manage. Like he came back, it's still bothering him. What was the way that they solved it? Okay, you're just going to DH now. We can afford to have you just DH, and they have Castellanos in the right field, which has been working pretty decently.
Well,
I may say in the playoffs.
He's been DHing since the beginning of the year because of the elbow thing, right? Like, I mean, they're worried about Tommy John, and okay, we just, we'll manage that by having you DH, which I actually love the idea of anyway, because, Bryce is, he's an okay defender. When his arm's good, he's got one of the best arms in the league out there. But it's not like he's going to winning your gold gloves or anything like that either, So if like, okay, Castellanos is on a 5-year, $100 million contract. Bryce is on the much longer, much more lucrative contract. And to be honest, I'd rather protect Bryce as long as I can anyway. Let him DH, right? Let him go out there and mash a baseball. I don't need him in the field running the fences, doing things like that could possibly get him hurt or something like that. So I'm cool with him DHing.
You could kind of add more to his career with the team by doing that because he's not taking all that wear and tear.
Sure. Yeah. Helps his knees, I mean, it helps your whole lower half, not having to go out there in right field and chase down fly balls every half inning. So
catching, making diving plays, making the throws. It's like for as long as he's hurt and until he decides to fix it, just have him DH. He's good. And
long term, if say something happened with Hoskins where you decide trade Hoskins because you get another ace or something happens there, whatever the case might be, I still think we sign Hoskins long term. I think he's kind of some as much as it's frustrating to watch him play defense sometimes. It's just certain guys he's been here through everything, right? Came up and we sucked, right? And was here from the beginning, kind of went through the growing pains, was a guy that came up and had that really hot start initially, right? And hit all those home runs in that stretch initially to start his career that was historical. Then they tried to change his swing with Gabe Kapler, and he was a guy that looked like he might never figure it out again, and his career was going to nosedive and never ever get back to a level that you thought it could. And now here is a guy that's hitting 30 home runs again. And, it's just one of those things where guys go through certain trials and tribulations and they kind of cement themselves. You want to talk about legacies. He's built himself a legacy here with the Phillies where it's kind of like, it's not like he's going to break the bank. It's not like he's going out in the free agent market and demanding $200 million or something. So I don't really know if I see the reason to move on from Hoskins. I guess if a deal came along where somebody offered you the right pitcher or the right package of players, you do it. But for me, it's like what deal is Hoskins going to sign that's going to make me go, nope, that's too much money. Like, I'll give him 5 years and $100 million just because he can hit me 30 home runs at the first base position. But say something like that would have come about and you move on from him. We know Bryce is athletic enough. And this whole idea, hey, could you go play first base for me? Yeah, if I had a whole spring training to figure out how to play first base, I bet you Bryce could figure it out, right? I bet you that would be his answer if they came to him, hey, could you figure out how to play first base? Yeah, give me a whole offseason and all spring training to figure it out, and I'd make it happen. Sure. Like, it's first base. It's not that hard.
Before I give my opinion, the guy hit Andrew Bellotti pitching the ninth inning. They took out Bohm and Castellanos and put in Sosa and of course, Matt Verlin in right field. So they made some managerial moves right there, which I like. You get a couple of guys out when you can.
Bellotti was the guy I thought about. I forgot about.
Yeah.
Forgot about Bellotti. Yeah, he was.
Yeah. And then he got the first out there, and now you got him pitching to
him, Brogdon, Gibson, Hand. You're like, you don't want them pitching in any sort of high leverage situation of any kind.
But back to, of course, Rhys Hoskins. He kind of reminds me of Pat Burr with how we felt about him. Like how he started.
Yeah, that's a really, really good comparison. That is. the guy that's a consummate professional. He's never going to bitch or whine. You're never going to hear any of that. He just goes to work every day. He deals with the growing pains or whatever the process might be. And, at the end of the day, he comes out on the other end of it. And, you're going to look back at it and go, man, how valuable, like a lot like Pat Burrell with that 08 team. How, as much as we bitched and whined about a lot of his shit, how valuable of a player, when you really look at the things that he did, the clutch hits and all the different times where he just did things for you that made you go, this is why this guy's always going to be a Philly legend. Yeah, Pat Burrell's another guy that as much as we bitched and whined about a lot of things, that dude will come here to Philly and never, ever, ever, have to worry about buying a beer or a dinner. There'll never be a boo. And, it's as many times as he was booed as a player, he'll never, ever hear another boo in this city.
And then he got his win. And then, like I said, and then, like I said, you guys wipe buying the fans beer, so that's like the topping on it. They're just like boo one minute, get the beer.
Pat Burrell was fucking fans' wives, Pat Burrell was over here boning your wife. Reese Hoskins' wife is buying you beer, so they both have qualities about them that make you go, yeah, love this guy.
One more left. But that was a great stat that they had right before that. The Phillies bullpen in this World Series, 12 innings, 7 hits, no earned runs, 4 walks, and 12 Ks. So we're
outdoing the Astros bullpen, which was supposed to be the bullpen that they've got the best pitching staff in baseball. So.
Which is good. It's great to see how full force that the bullpen has come. It was once a hindrance, and now it's been a strength in this playoffs. It's been a thing that with Rob Thompson knowing when to get guys in and out, it's been great. Like I was going to bring it up earlier, but how ballsy was it for them Game 1, the 5th inning, to bring in Alvarado in to face, I think at the time it was Alvarez, I think it was. Very early to bring in one of your trusted relievers that you want for the 7th, 8th, or 9th inning, and he comes in there, gets the out, gets another out.
Tucker had already had the huge Game 1 at that point. Tucker had hit 2 home runs. So
then he only went, I think, 8 pitches. So he was still fresh. He got the 2 outs, and then you saved him for here. And it worked out great for them because then he went boom, boom, boom the rest of the way and got the win. So it was like a pivot. He saw it as a pivotal point in the game where he needed to put in one of his trusted guys. He put in Alvarado early, and he paid out because he got the win at the end of the day, and it works. That's why Rob Thompson is winning games, because his decision making is on point more so than ever, 90% of the time so far. And this postseason, you're just seeing it even more because it's not just in a regional; it's on the national scene. So now everybody is seeing it. And I feel like teams are starting to look at that now, because if you look at the hirings today, of course the White Sox go with the bench, go in coach from the Royals who just cleaned house there, and then he goes and brings in Montoya, the former manager of I believe the Blue Jays, as his bench coach. So they're going with the same.
The Marlins hired?
Who did they hire?
Skip Schumacher. Remember Skip Schumacher?
Yes, the St. Louis.
Yeah, I remember him from St. Louis too. I think he played for multiple teams, but that's who I remember him playing for too. St. Louis, definitely.
Yeah,
Skip Schumacher. They just hired him as their manager.
And then, of course, Kansas City hired one of the coaches from Tampa Bay. They're bringing the front office from Tampa Bay. They bring him in. A lot of people were clamoring, why didn't you keep Pedro Griffo and then let him go to Chicago?
Oh, what a filthy breaking ball.
There's a full regimen, but just like he said, Bellotti seals it and holds the shutout, and what a way to end it. You were able to use, just like you said, some of those off pitchers that normally wouldn't get a spot in crucial games, and they close it out. And this is one of those games where you luck out and not have to use any of those guys. We didn't use Alvarado, didn't use Eflin, didn't use Dominguez. And that's a big win for you.
Yeah, I mean, especially because you got that all set up. I mean, really, you have it set up tomorrow to go. Hopefully, everything goes the way you want it to. You're going to go Nola, you're going to go Alvarez, and you're going to go Dominguez in some order. Alvarado. You're going to go Nola, Alvarado, and Dominguez in some order, right? And maybe you have one other arm in there somewhere where somebody gets you a couple outs, but for the most part, yeah. I mean, you're hoping Nola gets you 6, and then maybe Alvarado can get you through the 7th and the 8th, and then Anthony will close the 9th. Because Alvarado's now fresh enough where you could go get 2 innings from him if you really wanted to.
Definitely so, and just like the Chris Morris combined shutout, that's even bigger. Yeah, and now we go to tomorrow. Aaron Nola pitched against, I think, Christian Javier. I think that's what his name is. The first name is Javier. He's a good pitcher. I think he might be on the same level as, of course, Reimer from Game 2. So it's adamant now for me. Just like I said, Game 3 was important. Now Game 4 is important because you want to get 3-1 instead of 2-2. Because even though you're on a high right now, up 2-1, if the Astros can get that win tomorrow and get the 2-2, it changes the momentum. Now they know that the series is going to be able to go to Houston, which favors them, where we want to get up 3-1 and be able to have the chance to close it out in Philly. That's what we want to do. That's the game plan for the Phillies, and having Nola there to get this win would be big tomorrow. And we got to get out hot, just like we did today. We can't let the Astros score early. We got to get up on them early, get great pitching, where he can go 6-7 innings, and then he could just do 2 relievers like Alvarado and then Dominguez, and then save some guys for Thursday to try and clutch it out. But I'm happy with what I saw from the bats tonight. They saw what they needed to see with pitches. They read them. They hit the long ball. Of course, we talked about it. They had 5 tonight, and that's why it was 7-0. One of them was 2 of them were 2-run home runs, and then they got great availability out of their pitchers. A lot of guys that didn't get a lot of usage. Great job by Gibson. Great job from Bellotti coming in there. Brockton came in there, and then Nick Nelson. And Nelson and Gibson haven't been used as much as the other guys, but they came in and got 1, 2, 3 innings, did what they needed to do. And it's been everybody on deck here. And then I liked how they put Sousa and Verlin in the night. Just get them in the game, get them feeling the crowd and whatnot, get usage out of them. It's already up 7-0. You can put a couple guys in, let the other guys sit, and get ready for tomorrow.
Yeah. And I don't know if you saw this news from a few days back, but Dusty Wathan signed an extension to stay with the Phillies. He was somebody that was up for managerial jobs. Like a lot of teams wanted to bring him in to interview him for their managerial positions, including I think Kansas City wanted to interview him. But yeah, he was a name that kept being mentioned in circles for managerial jobs. He signed an extension with us, and we talked about him as like, hey, like Thompson, do you think there's a reason Thompson signed like a 2-year extension or whatever? Especially if he goes and wins a World Series. You're like, does this guy have any reason to want to, like after a couple of years, he might be like, hey, I'm done. Career baseball guy, got my World Series ring, proved I can manage at the big league level. I'm going to go take my hug and enjoy my retirement, right? And if that's already been kind of like a conversation, if you're Dusty Wathan and it's kind of been talked about like, hey, like just sign an extension here. You're going to be the guy. Like we're going to transition into you. You're the guy we want to transition into. It would make sense for why he would stick around and sign the extension now. Because if you feel like if you really want to manage at the big league level and there's no promise or there's no, guarantee of, that happening here in this organization, and that really is your goal, you're going to go listen to other opportunities ASAP just because your value's never been higher than it is now with your team in the World Series. So something tells me there's a lot of internal talk about, hey, it's Rob's job here for a couple of years because he's earned it. But as soon as that's over, we want to transition into you being the guy because, you've kind of proven that you can be, a great man, or, a manager at this level too that can have a lot of success, and you're ours, and you've come through our system, and that's kind of part of it too. You can take pride in the fact that you've kind of groomed him through your system, and that he's taken over the team, when he's finally ready, sort of thing. But that was just a little bit weird to me when I saw that. I was actually like, why would he sign an extension? Like there's got to be something there that was in. There was a backdoor conversation, some sort of handshake agreement. That's the only way that makes sense. But I'm happy. I'm glad he's here because I would love for him to be my next manager long term. I mean, Rob Thompson's not a guy you're ever going to look at, and he just doesn't seem like the type of guy that is like, oh yeah, like I'm going to manage in this role for 8, 9, 10 years. Like he just seems like a guy that's kind of like, yeah, that was fun for a few years. Let me come in and put my my little touch and spin on this. You have your success that you have, but then he's ready to go move on. Like I don't. It just doesn't seem like. It just doesn't have the feel, like the type of feel of like Thompson being a guy that wants to he's glad he's gotten his opportunity, but now he's proven what he can do at the helm, and he signed that extension because he wanted to do it. You know what I mean? And then it's Phil's for him and he's happy to go move on to the next phase of his life. But that's just the feel I get from it. But,
and then let's not forget a name that is actually still with the organization, Kevin Long. He was a name that's been up for.
He's going to go get a managerial job, I would think, too. But yeah, he's another guy. I would think he's going to get interviewed. Yeah, I would think he's going to get interviewed, and there's a very good chance he takes a job at some point here very soon. Yeah. He might. Who knows? Like you could end up. Yeah, there's quite a few different spots. All of a sudden you never know what happens leading up to spring training and shit too. You know what I mean? Jobs pop open in baseball in very weird ways sometimes.
I thought he was going to go to the White Sox. He was a finalist, and all of a sudden, Pedro Griffo sneaks in, gets the job, and then you just said the Marlins hired Skip. You had Kansas City hired the bench coach from Tampa, and now it kind of leaves some holes there. So it's like, okay, we thought he was going to be a foregone conclusion to be gone. And now he's not. Now he's still here, and it might be a blessing for us that he's still here.
Yeah, he's another guy. His time's gonna. You would think that, like going forward, now that we've had all this sort of success, and with his track record, he was with the Yankees for all those years, and he spent some time with the Mets and with the Nationals, now with us. All the success he's had. He's a name that's going to pop up. I'm so glad my TV's on mute and I don't have to listen to Alex Rodriguez talk. Oh my God, he is so annoying.
I like listening to David Ortiz.
Yeah, at least David Ortiz is entertaining. Yeah.
Yeah. But any final points before we transition over to the Eagles? Get some Eagles talk before we head out of here on the Phillies.
Game 3. Well, you couldn't have asked for just a better combination. Just a better. What's the series of events or better storm of whatever you want to call it, whatever the analogy is. Just the way everything came together for Game 3. It's just I don't know if you could have expected. You could have asked me. We could have had a million conversations about this. I would have never thought Game 3 would have been this smooth sailing, this stress free, this type of performance from the beginning. I really feel like we delivered a gut punch tonight. I really feel like Houston's walking off the field, going out and being like, man.
Especially after they hit us with the gut punch in Game 2.
Yeah, feeling like they kind of responded in Game 2 and went, hey, we're who we are for a reason. You know what I mean? We're right here. We ain't going anywhere all series long. Yeah. And now in Game 3, you just feel like you got absolutely kicked in the nuts. And it's tough to get up from it. It's how do you go respond tomorrow now? And even more so, knowing what you're going up against. Yeah, it's not that they have faith in Christian Javier, sure, but they know they're going up against Nola, and Nola's a competitor, and he's a guy that after what happened in game 1, he was disappointed with, the fact that he didn't pitch better, even though the offense bailed him out when they won. He was disappointed with the fact that he didn't pitch better. And, a guy like Nola, again, another person that lives for this, he's going to go to sleep tonight. Like, he's aware, this is the biggest game I've ever pitched. Tomorrow's the biggest game of my career. And guys like him live for this. Like, this is everything he wants it to be. Now, whether or not he pitches well or not is a different story, but, like, those things don't affect somebody like Aaron Nola. Like, he just keeps chugging along in a very Greg Maddux sort of way. He's not Greg Maddux, but damn if he doesn't have a Greg Maddux sort of approach to pitching. You know what I'm saying? Like, nobody's Greg Maddux, but you could tell he watched a lot of Greg Maddux growing up. You know what I mean? And kind of modeled a lot of what he does after a guy like that can throw 4 or 5 pitches for strikes, is never going to overpower you, but understands how to get you out, isn't going to ever walk anybody, had more 200 more strikeouts than he did walks. Who has 200 more? Very few guys have 200 strikeouts in a season, and this dude had 200 more strikeouts than he did walks, or something fucking ridiculously stupid. The best strikeout to walk ratio we've ever seen. So tomorrow, I mean, you can't wait now, right? Cannot wait. It's one of those things. I'm going to go to work tomorrow at 8 a.m, and all I'm going to think about all day long is Game 4. Can't wait. Like, we've seen a lot of big games in our lives as Philly sports fans, but this is up there with games that have gotten you excited and gotten you fired up and ready to go. This is up there with any of them. You know what I mean? It's one of those games that you look at and you're like, this is the shit you live for as a sports fan. You just get goosebumps, as a sports fan in those situations. So I can't wait. And you don't want to get overexcited because anything can happen. Obviously, it's baseball. We'd all like to sit him, watch him go out there and shut him down and watch us go win a game 2 or 3-0 as he throws a shutout. But that's not always the reality of the situation. But if you asked me before the series, if this could be a spot, hey, you're going to be up 2-1 in the series going into Game 4 with Aaron Nola scheduled to pitch. I mean, you say, give me that, give me that every day of the week, right? You couldn't ask for anything more. So,
And if you look at the bullpen, Gibson only threw 15 pitches, Nelson threw 30, so it was a little bit more, but he might not pitch again unless you have.
If any of those guys pitch tomorrow, I'm gonna I might cut my left testicle off or something. I can almost guarantee you none of those guys are pitching tomorrow unless this game turns into some sort of complete shit show.
I'm thinking of Game 5, but Gibson only went 15, Nelson 30, Brogdon 13, and Bellotti 14. So
it's so obvious what they've got it set up for tomorrow. It's so obvious. Yeah. I mean, you've got your 3 biggest, your 3 best pitchers in your entire pitching staff, whether they're starters, relievers, any of that, right? You've got it set up the way you want. Nola, Dominguez, Alvarado, it's set up. I mean, it's there. You've got it to the fullest extent. You've got it. You couldn't ask for anything more if you're Rob Thompson, but to have this set up the way that it is. All the pressure is now on Houston. It really is. And you find yourself in a 3-3 game in the 6th inning or the 7th inning, you still probably feel like you're in a really good spot because you love the fact that you can now go through Alvarado and Dominguez in that 3-3 game, and all you just need one big hit from your offense. But after the way the offense played tonight, is there any are they going? I don't see them slowing down. I mean, they're fired up, they're amped, and they seem like they're in a little bit of a zone of their own. And when you're in a zone like that, hitting wise, offensively, it's contagious, and it just kind of trickles down like a snowball effect throughout your lineup. So we don't score a lot of runs usually for Nola, but I wouldn't be surprised if we score some runs from tomorrow, just like we did in Game 1.
And the Phillies were able to kind of spread out the pitch count where the Astros, Jose Urquidy went 50 pitches tonight in relief in 3 innings. Yeah. So it kind of eliminates
You're probably not going to see him again, in the series. Yeah, he's their fifth starter or whatever. This was a game where they realized, you know what? But for Houston, that was big for them though too, because they feel like they need to have all of their big dog arms in their bullpen available now for every game going forward. And you really didn't have to waste any of those guys tonight in a game that you were down big early, and you just had a guy that your fifth starter that was able to come in and throw 50 pitches and really just kind of waste some innings for you in a time when you really needed to make sure you kept your best arms healthy. And Houston did that too. So, they know it's the same thing tomorrow. For them, it's life and death tomorrow, and they feel like whoever, it's all hands on deck. Whoever they need to throw tomorrow in their bullpen, whether they need to throw 6 guys between the starter and 5 bullpen guys, whatever they need to do, it's set up for them as well, because they made sure they didn't waste any of those bullets tonight. So they've got it set up the way they want it to. But I just don't know if any of it matters. If you just look at this team, it just feels like, when you watch sports and you watch teams go win championships, this is a magic carpet ride that's just going to end in one way and one way only, and that's with a parade down Broad Street. That's the only way these magic carpet rides end in sports, and you've seen it throughout our entire history as sports fans throughout our entire life, not just with Philadelphia teams, but teams in all sports from any city. I mean, the 2017 Eagles had that feel to them. It was a magic carpet ride that just seemed like it would never end. And by the time you got to the playoffs, it just became really obvious. We're going to go do something special here that no Eagles team's ever done before. And you just knew what the ending was going to be. You didn't know necessarily how it was going to be scripted, but you knew it was going to end with the parade down Broad Street. You didn't know how we were going to get there, but you knew that was going to ultimately be the ending. And this kind of has the same feeling to it. It just does. It's just these magic carpet rides don't end any other way.
Well, let's get a great start out of Noah tomorrow, get that win there, and then finish this out Game 5. Let's do it the way that we want to, in Philly, in front of the home crowd, and then make
this Eagles team has a similar feel to it too, Daniel. Let's be honest. We knew they were going to be good, but this good? I mean, this is a magic carpet ride of its own.
No, it definitely is, and I've loved every second of it. Yeah, then you got him saying, Rob here to stay. He definitely is. He's the manager of this team.
I mean, he's here for as long as he wants to be here, but he just strikes me as a guy that just kind of enjoys, the guy's 59 years old now or something like that. Like, he just strikes me as a guy that, he's like every other 60-year-old that you come across in your life. At some point, they're ready to retire. They're like, hey, I've had enough of this. I've proven everything. I've done everything I need to do, and I've proven everything that I need to prove. And, it's just time. He seems like the type of dude that enjoys his grandkids and other, facets of his life like that. And I wouldn't be surprised if you're him, if I was him, I would retire. If you go win the World Series, I'd retire after this. I'd be like, fuck it. Fuck the extension I just signed. Why would I come back? What else? Why? This is the greatest managerial story in the history of baseball. Who else has done something like this? Who else can say, hey,
go half a year, win a World Series, and go.
Yeah, don't ruin a good thing, right? I took over for a guy that had a losing record. I led us back from the depths of hell and lead us to the playoffs, and we make this magic carpet ride through the playoffs and go and win a World Series. You know what? It can't get any better than this. Peace, deuces. I'm out of here. Give me my ring. And this is one of the great. You want to talk about legacies? The one dude brought it up earlier. I mean, that's one of the greatest and most unique legacies you'll ever see from somebody in pro sports. I mean, oh my God, I don't know if you could write that story any better.
And Dynasty's got a point. He's a guy that's been a part of the analytics from Kapler, and he was on the Yankees bench for the Dynasty. So he has a little bit of the both sides.
He wasn't on their Yankees bench for the Dynasty. He wasn't on their bench in the late 90s when they had their Dynasty.
He was on there for the end of it. He was on there for the end of it where
he wasn't on their own one team. Go look that up. I wonder. I wonder because he didn't become an MLB coach until after the Yankees were done winning World Series. He was on the 2009 team, but that wasn't a dynasty.
That was the end of the dynasty because they still had Jeter, Posada, and all of them. That was the last
guess. But at that point, the dynasty was over at that point. That was just the cherry on top. The dynasty was 96 to 2000. That was the dynasty. They three-peated. They went 4 and 5 years, and they three-peated that stretch. That's a dynasty. Now, they still had a lot of those pieces still there in 09, but that was just kind of the cherry on top that kind of completed the entire storybook. You know what I mean? Like, that was the end, the storybook ending for those guys. But I guess I see what you're saying, but until now, I've never really looked at that as the end of the dynasty.
But my thing is, when you look at those pieces that were left in 2009, were the dynasty pieces. Those were the
they were the pieces. But that doesn't make you still a dynasty. They hadn't won anything in 10 years at that point. You're not a dynasty if you haven't won a championship in a decade.
Yes and no, because if you're part of that and you have all those rings,
great. So then you look at those guys and you say, you guys built the dynasty that was that 5-year stretch, and you could even include. You could say that dynasty was 96 to 03 because they went to the World Series in 01 and 03 as well, even though they didn't win. But for me, the end of the dynasty was when the Marlins kind of crushed their hearts in the 03 World Series. That was the end of the dynasty. Yeah. You know, that Marlins team where you went like, did a 20-year-old Miguel Cabrera really just hit a home run off of 40-year-old Roger Clemens? Okay, that's gnarly. And then the Marlins won that World Series when they really were like, they came out of nowhere with Josh Beckett and all these really young guys. Like, that for me was the end of that dynasty. 09 was nice because it was the cherry on top.
Josh Beckett, Ryan Dempster.
Yeah, think about how good that team was.
I think Dontrell Willis.
Dontrell Willis was on that team. AJ Burnett was on that team.
Yeah, AJ Burnett. And then they had the really good hitters, Luis Castillo, and of course, just like you said, Cabrera,
Juan Pierre,
Derek Lee,
Mike Lowell. That 03 Marlins team. When you look at that 03 Marlins team, top to bottom, Pudge Rodriguez was the catcher, right? Mike Lowell's on that team. We mentioned the pitching staff. You know, you mentioned Luis Castillo. Juan Pierre was just that guy at the top of the lineup you just didn't want to face. Stole over 50 bases, over 60 bases or whatever it was that year. You had Cabrera, as the young stud phenom. They were just a really, really good team top to bottom. Then they went out and I think they traded for Hugo Urbina or whatever at the deadline. And he became the closer that they needed. But, yeah, just top to bottom. What changed that team was Jack McKeon came out of retirement and they made him the manager, Trader Jack. Got that nickname back in his days as the Padres general manager. Jack McKeon will always be known as the guy that drafted Tony Gwynn. And that's how you know, this guy knows baseball. He was the GM of the Padres, and he said he was telling the scouts and all that, hey, we need to draft Tony Gwynn. And he kept telling them, we need to draft him, and they didn't draft him in the first 2 rounds. And according to the story that McKeon tells was that he had made it clear that if they didn't take Tony Gwynn with the 3rd round pick, that he was going to resign from his role as general manager and walk out the building. And they took Tony Gwynn with the 3rd round pick. But yeah, I mean, that's just a guy that this dude knows baseball. And he built those. He built that Padres team, the '84 team that went to the World Series or whatever and lost whatever some year in there in the '80s. That Padres team went to the World Series early on in Tony Gwynn's years. McKeon built that team, and then at 72 came out of retirement and managed that 03 Marlins team. And that was a similar situation to what Thompson did. Took over a team that had fired Jeff Torborg, their manager. I think they had a losing record at the time. They were right around 500 or whatever it was. And McKeon took over, leads them to the World Series, and became the oldest manager to go win a World Series in baseball history at 72 years old. But a really, really similar story to what Thompson's done, taking over a team mid-season. The only difference is McKeon was retired and came out of retirement. He wasn't on the coaching staff or anything like that. But still, it's impressive stuff. It's. But that team, that's funny because that 03 season, you never looked at that Marlins team in the moment. They were kicking our ass right down the stretch. They just seemed like they just kept kicking our ass. And I guess none of us really expected. You never looked at that team and went, wow, they can win a World Series. But then you look back on it 20 years later and you're like, man, that team was fucking loaded with talent, weren't they? Holy shit. Like, how does that, of course that team won a World Series. Like, man, they were really fucking good.
But let's transition over now to, of course, the Eagles before we get going. But before we do so, how about you tell everybody about how to become a A2D member?
To become an A2D member, it's only $9.99 a month. It's the best deal in the business. And your perks include appearances on shows, members-only streams, shout-outs, and weekly sports picks from the Money Pot podcast and Willie Vegas. Ew, Joe Biden's on my screen at the moment. He looks like I'm telling you, like he's standing sideways, and he looks like it's like the scene from The Wizard of Oz where the bad witch starts melting away because they throw water or whatever on it. Like, I swear he's like decomposing in front of her eyes. Like, fucking weird. They're telling me to vote, and they've got Charlie Crist and Joe Biden on the screen. That's going to motivate me.
But, of course, this Sunday, the Eagles beat the Pittsburgh Steelers 35-13. Probably, you could probably say that was JalenHurts' best game as a starter, throwing for over 200-plus yards, 4 touchdowns, and then we had the AJ Brown thing here, over 130 yards.
That's pretty easy when you're throwing the ball to AJ Brown, right? Like, good Lord.
It was 3 yards away from his 4th touchdown. He almost had the 4th touchdown, but they tackled him shy. And then another good stat, Miles Sanders, 9 carries, 78 yards, and a touchdown. So even when he didn't get as many carries, he still had 78 yards, 8 yards a carry, and we get the easy win there. But we did lose Jordan Davis, which, if I'm correct, somebody said he's out for a couple of weeks, which is a blow. But at least the first week is right away where we play Thursday. So it's kind of like, okay, get that out of the way. And then you get like a week and a half rest. You almost get 2 weeks rest because we don't play again until Monday night after Thursday against the Washington Commanders. But the team looked very good. We beat a team that we had to beat because they were one of those teams that haven't been playing well. It's like, okay, usually this is a team that we would kind of come back to earth and then find a way to lose. But we did good here. We had a better overall game, not just first half.
We finally played 2 full halves.
Yeah. And then we got another interception out of Gardner Johnson. That's been a great trade for us with him.
Good Lord.
Interceptions.
Wait a
He's
minute.
done a great job.
Connor McDavid has 2 more goals tonight and has like 11 goals through how many? I mean, they've only played like 8 games, right?
Yeah.
I mean, this is insane.
Well,
good Lord, is it?
It's not nothing I haven't seen with them before, but it's like that team is so constructed badly that I don't think they're going to win because they got a great first line, but that's it. They rely so much on that first line, and then they usually don't have a great goaltender. So it's like they'll probably make the playoffs, but then the first or second round they always struggle.
How is he only making $1 million this year? That is fucking crazy.
McDavid?
Yeah.
There's no way that he's only making that much.
I look. It says his 2023 salary is $1 million.
It's probably more than that because I believe they just locked him up. No, it's $12 million.
$12 million.
He just signed let's see. How does that work? Oh, because they gave him a big signing bonus each year.
Okay, so he got a big signing bonus. That's what it was. Okay.
So it's like his base salary is $1 million, but his signing bonus is $11 million. So he's making $12.5 million a year. But it's just the base salary is low compared to what his signing bonus is a year. So it's constructed that way.
That's interesting. Yeah, the Oilers are up 7-4. So they're 6-3. So this is their 10th game. Yeah, so he's got 11 goals in 10 games. That's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's just be on pace to score 85 goals this year. You know, it's like insanity.
Yeah, but going back to the Eagles, the one thing that I liked, we were just alluding to, is the fact that they played an overall full game. That they've been struggling with the second half, but they finally got that out and played great in the third and fourth quarter. They had that big lead. The defense was playing well. It cost a couple of turnovers. They kind of messed it up with a little bit of the runs, but I was happy with what I saw.
Yeah, they they just look really good on all sides of the ball, and they're by far the best team in the NFC. They're not better than the Bills. The Bills are a complete football team. They look like the team to beat this year, but still, that means you've got a Bills-Eagles Super Bowl, which seems like a ton of fun and would be a hell of a matchup. And, something that would be, one of those things where you definitely feel like you're beating the best again, right? And, so, I mean, I don't know. Right now, you're moving towards – you've got Super Bowl expectations. Hell yeah. Like, who's going to beat you? If we get to the playoffs and Kirk Cousins finds a way to beat us, like, stop it. Like, no. Like, they're just, who's beating you? Like, who in the NFC scares you? The Bucs are a mess. The Packers stink. I mean, the Niners, I guess, like, McCaffrey, all of a sudden they looked really good against the Rams, right? They can figure out everything here with McCaffrey and how to make that offense look like that on a consistent basis. They, maybe they become your biggest threat. And, I mean, the Niners are one of those teams I always look at and go, if everything's going right for them. I don't, you never like to play them. You always feel like it's going to be a tough matchup, but we've got a good track record against them. So it's not like they scare you or anything. Jimmy Garoppolo definitely doesn't scare you. Any team with a quarterback, any team led by Jimmy Garoppolo at quarterback doesn't scare you. I mean, you just look at the NFC; it's all really weak. It would be our luck to get beat by Geno Smith or something in the playoffs. I don't know what will happen there, but I mean, like, man, look at the NFC. Like, when we're talking about how good of a story Geno Smith is and how well the Seahawks are playing. That's how you know the NFC is bad. Like, it's just so bad. The Cowboys, the Giants, the Vikings, the Niners. Seahawks, none of these teams scare me in any way, shape, or form. The NFC South, I mean, Atlanta's in the number. Aren't they like leading the South or something at the moment?
At 4-4, they're leading the South. You got Seattle leading the West at 5-3.
Yeah, so Atlanta with Marcus Mariota at quarterback and Arthur Smith, a guy that I really like a lot. I was vouching for him to be the next head coach of the Eagles before we hired Sirianni. But he's turned around them in a hurry. Now they got fucking Mariota at quarterback. They're 4-4 and leading the NFC South. And who would have thought that was going to happen?
They had no business winning Sunday, but because of DJ Moore getting that 15-yard penalty, celebrating after getting that long touchdown, and then the kicker Pinheiro missing the extra point, and then
that's why they lost. Yeah, the kicker, the kicker Pinheiro. I would cut him. Like, you don't get to be a kicker, and like, no, like, stop it. You're cut, and I'll find somebody else to kick field goals.
I would be fining DJ Moore and then cutting him because you made DJ Moore's at least earned his reputation as a superstar player in this league.
that
it doesn't matter. I'd still find him
is a big time playmaker for you, I'd be upset with him. Yeah, but you can't cut him, obviously. But yeah, he's a guy that I think you chew out in front of the locker room to make like an example of, because you're supposed to be a leader of this team, and instead you're over here doing dipshit fucking things like that. But I don't know how you cut a guy like that. Maybe you trade him in the offseason to make a statement and get whatever you can back in return.
I'm not saying trade him. I'm just saying just find him. Just find him, because if it wasn't for him,
they'll handle that ways internally. These guys are protected from being fined from stupid shit like that. Yeah. But there's other ways to handle that internally to embarrass them, to make them feel as if like that was stupid on your part, and we're not happy about it. Yeah, I was watching that game on Red Zone. Both teams were trying to do their best to lose that game, and then one finally. The Panthers finally did a better job of trying to lose it than the Falcons did.
We started the week out. Baltimore, of course, beat the Tampa Bay. The free fall of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers continues. They're at 3-5 now. Of course, it doesn't get any easier for them moving forward. Tampa Bay lost on Thursday night last week to go to 3-5. That was the start of the week. That was a big thing there. Of course, we've had a couple of big games going on with the Cowboys winning. It seems like the Cowboys are picking things up. We don't play them again for a few weeks towards the end of the season. So it's like, I feel like with how they're playing, we got to keep the foot on the pedal and try and keep scoring and keep the lead, because right now we essentially have a 2-game lead over them, essentially, because we beat them and then we're up by a game over them, so they got to jump them. So like, with how good they're playing now that Dak's back and he's kind of managing better, than Tony Pollard has kind of taken over the running back spot, even with Zeke injured. Zeke was out, and then Pollard had 150 yards rushing on 15 carries or so. I think we got to keep playing. There's been talks about look at the teams that we're playing. It's like, it doesn't matter who we're playing as long as we win and look good doing so. You still got to play the teams that, no matter who's on your schedule. That's something they can't control.
No, but I understand the argument. You want to be as battle tested as possible come playoff time, and it does worry you a little bit that you're not playing as high quality opponents as you could be, just to kind of figure out where you are. But I'll also answer that by saying we play who's on your schedule. Well, Minnesota was on our schedule. They're the second best team in the NFC. We rolled the fuck out of them on prime time. You know what I mean? We've already beaten Dallas once this year.
That's why they traded for Hawkinson, because they knew they needed to trade for an extra piece.
They knew they needed to get better at some point.
And then Dallas, of course, everybody could say Rush was the quarterback, but he was playing very good up until that point, until he played us. And then that's what caused them to go back to Dak a little bit sooner than they wanted to, was because of that game. And now Dak's back in, and that's because of how we're playing. They have to keep up with us, and then their best chance of doing so is to have Dak in a quarterback back, because if they were to lose or a game like that, then they would be even farther back. Even with the 2 losses, they'd be essentially 3 games back at first place with us, with the loss at hand to us. And we create that by keep on winning. Of course, there might be a slip up through the end of the season with us, because we're 8-0. I don't expect us to go undefeated, but at some point. Yeah. But it's the fact that I think the big thing is the playing and development of JalenHurts. He's playing great. He just, one big knock is he's not throwing touchdowns in games. He just had 4 in a game against Pittsburgh, who usually have a very good secondary. He threw for 4. And one thing is, he didn't throw a lot of high performance plays where there are long plays for long yardage. Boom. Every touchdown that he had was long yardage that game. He was averaging like 20 yards a throw in that game, and he looked great there. So if he could keep that going, I'm even if they lose a game or two down the line, I'm still going to feel very confident in this team because they can throw the ball right now. They got AJ Brown. He's been a stud since coming in there. He's kind of overshadowed the fact that we had Devontae Smith, and Devontae Smith hasn't had to play that way early on. You got Goddard on the team. You had a guy that came over, Zach Pascal, who got the touchdown, who has been able to be active. And then the running game still being the running game with Miles Sanders.
This will be an ugly game. Rams and Bucks this weekend. Oh, how ugly will that be?
Yeah, that's going to be interesting.
How about the Seahawks and the Cardinals? And the Cardinals are favored by 2 points. Like how long are people going to sleep on the Seahawks for? How about Tennessee? You know what? You want to talk about surprises in football? Tennessee is 5-2 after everything that happened, right? With them losing AJ Brown and really looking like they're just going to be so bad. You know, they're 5-2 and they lead the AFC South by a lot.
Well, because the division's so bad, and just look at Tennessee. They had Malik Wilson, and he looked very bad, but because of Derrick Henry being Derrick Henry, he kind of was able to deal with that by rushing for over 200 yards and 2 touchdowns.
I love how Jacksonville hires Doug Peterson and nothing changes. Like, they spent a ton of money in free agency. Nobody got better than the Jaguars. We say that every offseason. Well, on paper, nobody's gotten better this offseason than the Jacksonville Jaguars. And then every year they win fucking like 4 games. I mean, good Lord, you got a down division, you got a Super Bowl winning head coach, a dude that's going to come in here. Remember like all this talk about like the instant turnaround that the Jags would have, and they could go be a playoff team because of how bad that division is. They're like 2-6.
And that's probably why they made the move to get in Ridley, knowing that they're not going to win this year and they're going to have to go next year. And they go and get a big-time receiver for Lawrence. And that's the move where it's going to be make or break with that team, because it's like, okay, there's no excuses now, because now next year they're going to have Calvin Ridley, Christian Kirk, Marlon Jones. They're going to have Zay Jones. They're going to have those weapons there. There's no excuses now, because you bring in a guy like Ridley, who is that game changer.
They got Etienne.
Who looked great on Sunday morning, had over 150 yards and a touchdown.
How about the Dolphins? They acquired Bradley Chubb and Jeff Wilson. I mean, good Lord.
There's the stat out there, like with the draft picks that the Dolphins got for the Niners trading up to get Trey Lance. They've gotten Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill, and Bradley Chubb.
That's pretty good. Yeah,
they've used every one of those first round picks to trade to get. They traded up to get Waddle. They traded to get Hill, and then they traded to get Chubb. And then it even goes even further with that. That includes the Laramie Tunstall trade. That it all stems from that with the Texans. Trading multiple picks to the Dolphins, because the one pick that the Dolphins used to trade up to get Waddle was because of the Dolphins trade with the Texans sending Tunstall to Houston. So they just made everything get bigger because of that. And it's helped that team out. That team is explosive on offense, and it goes as far as that they can go with Tua staying healthy and throwing the ball, but they gave them the weapons to do so with Waddle and Hill, and you've seen the benefits of it, and now they're shoring up the defensive side of the ball. They feel like they need to get pressure on the quarterback. They go and bring Chubb in, and look to do good with that in fact. And down the line, they might be a sneaky team because they got the Bills there, and the Bills are going to probably finish first. But I could see a sneaky run in the playoffs by the Dolphins if they can get hot.
Oh man, Steph had a triple-double. They're just showing the highlights on the ESPN top 10. First of all, this is I don't know what but like they had like a fucking field hockey highlight on the top 10 plays. Like I don't know what's going on here.
Yeah. But of course the Eagles are playing early this week. They're playing Thursday night, 8:00, same time as Game 5, so it's probably going to get overshadowed. But
I'll tell you what, is that game in Houston?
It's in Houston.
We should roll the shit out of them, but there's something about these Thursday night games that are just fucking weird, so you never know.
Yeah, that's a game where it could sneak up on us if we could get behind just because we just
you don't play well, right? Like you don't execute something just because it's a short week. I mean, Thursday night games are just weird in a lot of ways.
But I feel like we still should roll in this game.
We should roll. We should roll everybody remaining on our schedule, to be honest.
If anything, I feel like next Monday night could be like a game where we maybe come in a little like sluggish because of the long layoff and come into a game like that against Washington, and maybe we come out sluggish and they get out to early lead on us. Maybe that's when, but that's because of a long layoff. I think this game we just played great, and we come in 3 days later and we're playing Houston, who just struggled against Tennessee, against a Tennessee team that could just run all over them and didn't even have a passing game. And I feel like we can run and throw the ball. And AJ Brown knows the Texans playing against them in that division with Tennessee. And I feel like it's going to be a game where hopefully we get up early and then we can kind of roll from there and get the running game going for the rest of the game. Because that's a game that we should be up by 2 press scores if we play to what we did on Sunday.
Yeah, no, it's, it's just, it's one of those things because Thursday night games always seem to be ugly. So you just kind of worry about the quality of it. But
and
Houston stinks. They're garbage. And it would kind of be fun to like Houston, who's your daddy sort of thing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, so, yeah.
It's JalenHurts' hometown, so he's going to have probably a family there watching him.
Sure.
This is his first game there, and he's going to want to get a win and play well there. I hope it's a game where maybe you see a lot more running out of Miles Sanders because you can get usage out of him in this game with how bad that the Russian defense has been for Houston. You can get him rolling early and kind of take a little bit of the load off of JalenHurts in a game like this.
Yeah, it's at this point. I don't think you need to with Jalen against Houston. I don't think you need to try to have him do too much. You can just kind of have a nice, comfortable game plan would be my guess. But yeah, I mean, what a time to be a Philadelphia sports fan. Let's go win both the Super Bowl and the World Series in the same year.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. But for me, a big point with this game plan is to run the ball and to stop Dameon Pierce. He's the biggest threat on that team. I feel like the passing game hasn't been doing well for them. But Pierce, the rookie running back, has been a pleasant surprise for him, a nice mid-round pick at running back out of Florida. He's playing like a top 10 running back. I feel like if we stop him, we should have no issues rolling in this game. But we just have to stop him. I see this game as like a 28-7 game or 28-3. If we play to what we play to, even more. But my prediction is like 28. I'm going to say 28-6. I think they get 2 field goals.
I think the line was like 13.5 or something like that. I'll go with some sort of weird like backdoor cover, like 27-14 or something.
Could be a situation where maybe it's 27-7, and then they get a touchdown.
And they score they score that late irrelevant touchdown with like 2.5 minutes to play or something stupid, you know?
Make the score look like it was closer than what it really was.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely could see that, but I feel like this is a needed win here. Should be easy going in as long as they play and show up. And, you know, these are games where if you don't show up, maybe you lose because you don't play to it because you expect to win on paper. But like some people don't like these short games, but this is going to be a plus for us because we play this Thursday night game. Even though it's on 3 days' notice, it's against a lesser opponent, and it gives us 10 days rest, essentially, until the next game, which is kind of like a mini bye there. It's like a mini bye after just having a bye, like a week and a half.
Yeah, you get a long week. That always helps.
And then you play on Monday night against a division.
Wow.
Rival.
Look at this. So we have the best win-loss by home team in postseason history for a single ballpark in MLB history. And our record at Citizens Bank Park in the postseason is 22-9. That's a 71% winning percentage. It's the best in MLB history for a single ballpark. So that's pretty tight. That's some cool stuff.
Well, now it is. Before the season, it was 13-9, and now it's 22-9. So that shows how dominant we've been at home.
That's pretty cool.
But any last words on this before you wrap things up?
No, we need to wrap things up. I got to be to work in the morning, and I'm starting to fall asleep. And I've got apparently my pregnant wife with my unborn child, who's now at 32 weeks pregnant. The baby is running out, and it kicks and punches and does everything it can to make you very aware that it does not like the fact that it is trapped inside of her. And I've got to go deal with that and help that situation.
Yeah. But I guess we'll wrap things up for tonight. We'll be back next week. Hopefully, we'll be back next week to celebrate a World Series victory in a parade. And then we'll talk about that. And then, of course, we'll also talk about Week 9 in NFL, the Eagles, Texans, and then get ready for Week 10, where the Eagles will play the Washington Commanders on Monday Night Football. And maybe a little bit here and there, anything else. Of course, and before we get going, I want to give a shout out to the Philadelphia Union. They won this Sunday night. They're going to be playing this Saturday in the MLS Cup against LAFC. Let's go Union. We got the Eagles are 8 now. We got the Phillies two wins away from the World Series trophy, and then we got the Philadelphia Union in the MLS Cup, 1 win away.
Now you've done it. We're going to be canceled next week. You mentioned the Union. Tom's going to cancel us.
But other than that, that'll wrap things up with tonight's show of the Weekly Roundup. We'll be back next week. I am Dan. This is Zach. We'll see you guys next week.